But let me go to the issue of the national convergence. Here, ladies and gentlemen, what we are saying, and if it doesn't make sense, please throw it away. But what we are saying as the MDC is that the problems that we are facing in Zimbabwe do not affect people, members of a political party alone. They affect all of us. If it is joblessness, if it is a poor economy, if it is corruption, if it is capital flight, and so on, they affect all of us. Is it not high time that we should all focus our attention on these national issues and look for solutions to resolve these national issues together? That is the concept of the national convergence. And we are raising it now. We are giving it to our friends in the civic society and in other political parties, that this is our way of thinking. If we are wrong, then show us a better way. But we are saying it's high time that we must forget our sectional political interests and focus on the common good. We do this by focusing on the issues that are affecting Zimbabwe. Hence the philosophy of the national convergence. It's a very, very good philosophy. And we invite you, please, to look beyond us and look at the concept. Don't worry that this concept has come through Tsvangirai's mouth and you don't like him, or from Mwonzora's mouth and you don't like him. Please forget about the persons. Look at the idea. Is it not a good idea? Should we not start thinking on how to mobilize our people much, much better? And by the way, we are preparing to govern. We know that come 2018, we are going to win. And we are going to win by a landslide. I see my colleagues see a lot of fun with this. But let me tell you, one day on this very table, I was asked, I think it was 2010, by a journalist, Mr. Mwonzora, now that this constitution project is going haywire like this, do you see the country having a new constitution? That was after, the behavior by ZANU-PF and so on. And I said, I have never been surer in my life we are going to have a new constitution. And you can criticize that it is a wrong one or a bad one, but it is there. I had vision, and the vision was correct. I have a vision. We are going to win.
Okay, thank you, Lady Chair. In response to the invitation to join the National Convergence, as ADP, we feel very flattered that you would invite us to join hands with you to come up with solutions to the problems that we're facing as Zimbabweans. I just want to maybe make 3 statements in connection with that. The first one is that we do not really have the democratic space to implement solutions. So even if we do have a national convergence and we meet as different political parties, as African Democratic Party, MDC-T, NCA, and we say we're facing low levels of productivity in Zimbabwe, high unemployment rates, extreme cases of poverty, yes, we can identify the problems, but do we really have the democratic space to implement the solutions? So that would be my first critical concern. The second one is that we have to acknowledge that politics in Zimbabwe has played a critical role for us to end up in the state that we're in now as a country, and we need to deal with the politics. It's not that we do not have professors in Zimbabwe, it's not that we don't have economists, it's not that we don't have people who are gifted in business who can actually resolve some of the issues that we have at the moment. Everyone is there. We are very capable. We've got a high literacy rate. We've got everything that we need. What is lacking is the political will. What is lacking is the democratic space. So I would rather maybe focus on dealing with those issues first than trying to maybe form a national convergence that will not accomplish anything, rather than maybe just spend money in traveling to meetings and, you know, carrying on those debates. And then the last point that I just wanted to make is that as Africans, there's one thing that I've really noticed, and specifically as Zimbabweans, we're actually well known for this, even in the SADC region. You know, they actually say if you want a brilliant paper written, ask a Zimbabwean to do it. We write the best papers, we come up with the best policies. You know, when it comes to debates, workshops, etc., we really are in the forefront. But when it comes to actually rolling out the solutions and changing things physically on the ground, we actually are far behind a lot of other countries. So we need to also change our mindsets from just wanting to talk endlessly and meet and come up with fancy names for, you know, convergence this and convergence that, and do something practical on the ground. So thanks for the invitation, but you know, when you're cleaning the streets or when you're going to feed children, I think as African Democratic Party will join you then. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think there are two questions. I'll just start with the last one. The one you were saying, like the opposition saying SADC chairmanship is a job. I think probably when I was presenting, we're not here. Because I think I specifically even articulated from the point of view of ZANU-PF to say what would be the opportunity if you are ZANU-PF. Then I would say if you were just an ordinary Zimbabwean, if you were an opposition political party. So I think I did touch on that. Probably we're not in when I said that, but there were actually a lot of opportunities. And I alluded to those opportunities. That included like exploring our blueprint, our empowerment blueprint, our policies, also including on, it also included the issue of, I think, attacking neoliberalism and some of those things I did mention on those issues. Then there's the issue of national conventions. Well, I don't see anything wrong with the opposition political parties working together, especially if it is on issues to improve the ordinary person's life. I think from where we are coming from the NC, what we just yet is probably a convergence to do with elections, because normally in most of these coalitions that we are reading, it's about people, let's come and meet, we need to have one candidate in 2018, we're not interested in that kind of job. Why? Because as NCA, we're clear that in 2018, we're going to field 1,958 people to contest as councillors, because we've got 1,958 wards. We're going to field 210 people to contest as MPs, and we're going to field a presidential candidate. So we have problems if someone calls us to say, come here, want to discuss about coming with one candidate, because that is already impossible. Because our Congress, the Congress that transformed the NCA from a civic site to a political party, was clear to say that what we need to do now is to make sure that we are represented in each of every 1,958 wards that we have. So that I think we will be the first opposition political party in 2018 to contest all wards against ZANU-PF. You understand that during the last election, I think there were almost about more than 100 wards that were not contested. ZANU-PF won those seats uncontested. And we want to make a history and a record as the first political party to go into contest ZANU-PF in every ward, even in Makonde. Then, I think, having said that, there's also a need for people to be fair with us. Like the people extending the issue of, the people extending invitation for us to go to the national conventions at the MDC-T. I think MDC-T, they are not new to us. Some of you may not have known our history. I think I'm not someone who is new to Nkomatagi here. I'm the spokesperson here. He was actually once the spokesperson for the NCA. He was also once the vice chairperson for the NCA. The first chairperson of the NCA was Morgan Tsvangirai, who is the current president of the MDC-T. And when you talk to a lot of people there are people who came from the NCA first and then went to the MDC. So we are not new to each other. So I think we also need to be fair to each other to say that we're working together before. We worked together, and our agenda was to ensure that we have a concept that is people-driven, a concept that comes from the people, a concept that does not come from the people, from the politicians in government. So I realized what happened when our colleagues went into the inclusive government. They actually started to write that constitution themselves, which was against our principles, which was against the same principles which they used to defend when they were at the NC. I'll rest assure you that there was never any basic spokesperson ever Timane from the NC besides Madock when he was saying that the constitution must not be written by politicians. But it was the very politician who was now writing that constitution. So I think from where we are coming from, it's not just about being divided by the MDC-T. It's not about that. We've worked together for a long time. We've got our own fears. We used to agree about the constitution. Our constitution is written. When they went into inclusive government, they had tea with Mugabe. They did exactly the opposite of what we used to. So we don't know if tea is still there. We agree on the national convention. If they are invited to come and have tea, this might be thrown out. That's our only fear from the NC perspective.
Thank you very much. I'll leave this time to Honorable Mwonzora to respond to some of the comments and questions that were raised.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I want to answer the question raised by the gentleman there. Well, first of all, as a matter of advice, never take these things personally. You are still too young, you have a future. By the time you get to my age, you probably have developed a BP, you know. So never take it personally. What we were saying, and I want to borrow the words by the late Miss Chikasha here, is that chairing SADC is not an achievement. What it has been portrayed as by ZANU-PF is that President Mugabe has achieved something by being chairperson of SADC. Well, the previous chairperson was Joyce Barnett of Malawi. It's a rotational thing. It's Zimbabwe's turn. So he has not done anything extraordinary in order to be elevated to chair. So this is the point we are making, that this is something which comes anyway, even if the president of this country was Madock Chivasa. He will be chairman of SADC with all his imperfections, you know. So it's not an achievement. Number two, we are saying the government of Zimbabwe is not sensitive. If you read newspapers, as SADC was having its meeting at the Victoria Falls, there was a demonstration in Harare about jobs. And what happened? 23 people were brutalized right in front of SADC. So we are not dealing with a sensitive regime. This regime does not care what the international community thinks. This is a regime headed by a person who once said, keep your Britain and I keep my Zimbabwe, which we all heard as keep your Britain and I kick my Zimbabwe. I want to come to the issue of the national convergence, and allow me to bore you a little bit with some history. I have a younger sister, her name is Caroline. Well, when we were young, she always thought that I was out to cheat her or to trick her. So whenever I shared food and they put the two plates there, and I said, Caroline, pick your plate, she would say, which one is yours? Then as I am about to pick the plate on the left side, she picks that one. Because she thinks that's the plate which contains more. And I learned that this was her thing. And I started choosing a plate with fewer things. And she would pick that plate because she thought I was cheating her. I see a parallel with this with other political parties. They think the MDC is there to cheat them. They think the MDC is there to take the support that they have from them. They think the MDC is there to rule alone. Well, what we are saying on the national convergence is that maybe it is high time we have a change of thinking and a change of tact. How about answering the question, what is the problem? Instead of answering the question, who is the problem? Remember, previously, we were talking about Mugabe. We were personalizing the Zimbabwean problem. Now it's high time we deal with what is the problem. Is the problem unemployment? Is the problem lack of constitutionalism? Is the problem corruption? So we answer what? Why we must do it now? If I may answer directly, my friend Madam Chikasha, why we are doing it now is so that we find solutions to the Zimbabwe's problem. So that when you win in 2018, you don't win and start thinking of policies. The policies are there already, and these are consensus policies. So what we are saying is that let's now converge around the issues instead of around personalities. So the issue of the national convergence is different from an election pact. An election pact then deals with who should be our candidate. That's not what we are talking about. We are talking about what are the issues in the Zimbabwean society, what is wrong with Zimbabwe, how can it be resolved. And it is better for us to think of solutions before we come to government. Because when we are in government, maybe we may have a difference in thinking. We must also put pressure on the rulers. You know, if we have, we feel still we have Zimbabwe at heart and we have solutions. There is nothing wrong with providing solutions to those who have the power of government. Because at the end of the day, the people who must benefit are our people. So that is the change of thinking that we have in the MDC. It is a paradigm shift which we are having in the MDC. We are no longer thinking of ourselves only. We are thinking of our colleagues. Even our colleagues whom we think may have less membership than we have. We are saying every member is important. Every political party is important. And we are saying let's work together. Now, it's up to you to refuse or to accept. We don't force anyone. I just want to say also that when we are trying to resolve national issues, we must never be slaves of history. My friend Chivasa talks about the constitution and what they wanted to do in the NCA. Yes, we know that they didn't want this constitution. They voted against it and achieved 5% of the vote. 5% of the voters agreed with them. But that is the cruelty of democracy, isn't it? Democracy is the dictatorship of the majority. But if we keep on thinking of lost battles, we are like drivers driving, looking at the rear view mirror. We are saying, let's forget about that. It's time to move on. It's time to rise and resolve the problems of Zimbabwe. And we are saying, let's work together. Now, it's up to you to spend it or not. But we come in good faith as the MDC. The problems are beyond the capacity of one political party. They are beyond the capacity of this government. They are for everyone. And we are saying, let's converge on national issues. And not, let's form an electoral pact. No, that's not what we are saying.
Okay, because of our time, we shall not be taking any more questions. I'm sorry about that. I'll just give our speakers, starting from Mr. Madock Chivasa, just 1 minute to say their last remarks, and then we round up. Thank you very much.
Yeah, okay, I think I'll just conclude by saying that it's important for us to continue discussing on issues of national importance, and that also I totally agree with Mukomata to say that there are some issues that are national issues, but of course, kana ukabirwa nezuroga aungamaningisi kuti kwaikanga mwati kune mbavha kana watosangana nembavha yawo unokubvaza utofunga zvekubirwa kwawakaita aungatadzi kukanga.
I'd also like to just comment on the issue of the national convergence. I hope I was not misunderstood. I think it's a very noble idea, But I also think that it's high time that we as Zimbabweans moved from talk shops for us to come up with national policies to deal with our problems in 2014, hoping to win an election in 2018. For me, it still seems very airy-fairy and not quite concrete enough to be a solution for the current situation. So I want to encourage my colleagues here from the NCA and from the MDC-T to say, why can we not actually do something, have solutions that actually translate into action and change lives? If you were to approach the African Democratic Party with such an idea to say, can you join us on this, which is a practical solution which will translate into a change in what people are going through right now, I think we'll be very happy to join you. But we are a bit hesitant to join talk shops and policy debates and so on. And that is all from us at the African Democratic Party. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Fortunately, the MDC has moved from just talking, and we have staged more than 2 demonstrations pushing for jobs. And these demonstrations have been thwarted by the police, but we are keeping on knocking. So there is pragmatism on the part of the MDC. Madam Chair, we are saying that this is time for a change of tact. This is time for a change of thinking. This is the time for us not to be slaves of history. And this is the time to find value in each other. And we are saying civic society, political parties, let's come to a common thinking. We did that before in the constitution making process. We united with civic society to push certain clauses in the constitution. Because we were united, because we had firmness of purpose, we managed to put those things into the constitution. It's regrettable that this government is not implementing the constitution, but there is ample historical evidence that working together does yield results. Little political fiefdoms don't help us. We are not saying this because we are bigger at this point in time. We know the African Development Party may be the biggest party next year, who knows? NCA may suddenly become big, who knows, bigger than us. We don't know that. And we are saying whether they become bigger than us or not, it doesn't diminish the value of working together. The working together is the only solution. Why are we going to where others are coming from? Have we forgotten about Kenya, Ford Asili, and so on, and the tragedy of Kenya? And in Zimbabwe, we are going back 60 opposition political parties, and so on. It is not working. It doesn't help us. And the way to go is to converge on national issues. It is to answer what is wrong and not who is wrong. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With those last remarks, I would like to thank our panelists tonight for their insights on the topic that we had tonight, and to thank you for attending tonight's meeting. We appreciate you as the Media Center. Have a good evening.